Hello and welcome to Praxis for today. We're going to have a light hip opener, hatha yoga flow with some time for silent meditation or silent prayer. If you normally use props for something like a hip opener, I'd recommend you use a block and a belt or a band and a bolster or a pillow or a rolled up mat if that's something that you normally find in your practice. We'll start as always with some deep breathing and a prayer, placing your right hand on your heart, closing the eyes and going into your deep breathing practice. Could be ocean breath, breathing in through the nose, into the chest and into the belly, and then up from the belly, up through the chest and out the nose. You can use square breathing, 4 counts in, 4 counts of holding the breath, 4 counts out, 4 counts holding the breath and repeat. Or asymmetrical breathing, 4 counts in, hold for 4, and then exhale for 8. Or cyclical sighing, 2 breaths in and 1 long exhale. But as you practice this breath, we'll read David's Song of Thanks, 1 Chronicles 16, 8 through 13. Give praise to the Lord, proclaim his name, make known among the nations what he has done. Sing to him, sing praise to him, tell of all his wonderful acts. Glory in his name, let the hearts of those who seek the Lord rejoice. Look to the Lord and his strength, seek his face always. Remember the wonders he has done, his miracles and judgments he has pronounced. You, his servant, the descendants of Israel, his chosen ones, the children of Jacob. He is the Lord our God. His judgments are in all the earth. And what blessings can you give thanks for? What has God given you without warrant or cause? What sense of gratitude can rise up in you now? Can you savor this feeling in your heart and return to it when your practice becomes challenging? Let us try to let gratitude flow from an open heart today. And we'll come out of our prayer and move into wide child pose variation. We're going to move into child's pose, wide child pose, clasping the hands together and bending them over behind the back and stretching the shoulders out slightly. Taking a few deep breaths. And then from here, we're going to move into a neutral tabletop position. Moving into cat-cow to warm up. Exhale, looking up, arching the back. Inhale. Arching the back. Exhale. Inhale, driving the hips into the mat. You can tuck the toes under if you want a little bit more of a stretch, and exhale, lifting the knees off the mat. Inhale, arching the back, looking up. Exhale, thrusting the hips down, and then coming to neutral table once again. And then extending the left arm and right leg out on an inhale into the extended table pose. Exhale, bring them back together. Inhale, out. Exhale, together. Inhale, out. Exhale, together. Inhale, out. And holding here for 4 breaths. Deeply inhaling through the nose into the chest and then the belly. And then exhaling from the belly through the chest and out the nose. You can use ocean breath if you wish, coming back then on your last exhale to neutral table. Extending the right arm out, left leg on the inhale. Exhale back to neutral. Inhale out. Exhale neutral. Inhale out. Exhale neutral. Inhale out. And holding for 4 deep breaths. Pointing the toes, palm flat on towards the mat and the floor, Arms straight, parallel to the ground. One more breath. And then exhaling back to neutral table. Next, we're going to come into tiger pose. We're going to reach the right leg back, extending it fully, and then on the exhale, bringing it back down to neutral table. Extending the right leg out and up overhead, looking up to the sky, and exhale, coming back to the mat. Inhale up, exhale out. One more time, inhale up, arching the back, releasing the lower back, bringing the shoulders back, trying to get the shoulders, keeping the shoulders above the wrists, and coming down with your last exhale. Switching sides, left leg back on the inhale, exhale, coming back down to neutral. Inhale, left leg up, exhale down, inhale up, exhale, coming back down to neutral, inhale up, and hold here. It's a hatha-style movement, so we always do 4 dynamic and then hold for 4. Or usually. Like a little bit longer, one more deep breath here. And then exhaling and coming down to neutral. And then exhaling, bring the knees wide and coming back into wide child pose. Moving into neutral tabletop, we're going to go into fire hydrant or city dog. Going to lift up the left arm and the right leg, keeping the knees and elbows bent at 90 degrees. So that left arm extending to hip level, in line with the knee, toes together, pointed back. Right hip internally rotated, left hip engaged, externally rotated. One more. Right arm pushing long. Inner elbow facing inwards. Holding the pose now. Left leg. Trying to keep it parallel to the floor. It's pretty challenging. One more breath and then coming down and switching to the other side. Inhale, lifting up. Exhale, coming down. Inhale, lifting up right arm and left leg. Exhale down. Inhale, up and down. Inhale, up. Down last time. Inhale, up and holding for 4 breaths. That left leg bent at 90 degrees, knee bent at 90 degrees. Lifted at the shoulder level, parallel to the floor. One more breath, and coming down. And then relaxing back into child's pose. Coming up to tabletop, and then into downward dog on an exhale. Now we're coming down into downward facing dog and plank pose. So pushing back into downward dog on an exhale and then inhaling into plank, or for a bigger challenge, dolphin flow, coming down onto the forearms. Dropping down to flat back, keeping the core firm, and then exhaling into down dog, modified down dog. Inhale to plank, exhale to down dog. Inhale to plank, exhale to down dog. Inhale to plank. Exhale to down dog. And hold. Holding here. Keeping the core firm. Thighs rotated internally. Strong forearms. Driving into the mat. Eyes down. And then pushing back up into downward dog on your next exhale. And then you can walk or float to the front of your mat and return to mountain pose, inhaling up, arms overhead, and then exhaling, hands to heart. We'll be then, after catching one more breath, on the next inhale, drawing the arms up overhead. Exhale, folding forward, rounded back, knees slightly bent. Inhale up to flat back, hands on shins. Exhale, back down. Inhale, sweeping up, arms overhead. Exhale, hands to heart. And then inhale, kicking the right foot back and coming into wide angled standing pose. Hands together at the heart. We'll drop down into goddess pose, or what we call horse stance. Squatting, knees out, pelvis tucked. Exhale down, inhale up. Exhale down, making sure the knees don't fall forward. Inhale up, feet pointed out slightly. Inhale down, exhale up. Inhale down, you know what's coming next. We're going to hold. Jim may use a kind of a kung fu grip here. It's fist into palm. And it's just keeping the core engaged and strong. So we tuck the hips under, tuck the pelvis under, and make sure the knees don't fall forward. Holding here for one more breath. And then exhale, coming up and extending into triangle pose. Pivoting the left foot out so it's perpendicular to the back foot. Extending the arms parallel to the floor, looking out over the left wrist. Exhale, extending out over the leg, dropping down, looking up. Inhale, drop the gaze, and lift up. Exhale, lean out, drop, look up. Exhale, drop the gaze, and come up out of the pose. Exhale, down, look up. Inhale, drop the gaze, come up. Exhale, down, look up, and hold the position for 4 deep ocean breaths. One more breath. And drop the gaze on the inhale and come up out of the pose. Dropping the hands to the hips, pivoting that foot from the top of the ball of the hip joint. Extending now to the right side. Dynamically. Exhale, lean forward, look up. Inhale, drop the gaze. Come out of the pose. Exhale, into the pose. Inhale out. Exhale, drop. Inhale, come up. Exhale, drop. And hold here. And with every breath, exhaling, think of drop over that right leg further. Every inhale, lengthening the spine, pulling parallel to the ground. And then inhale, drop stopping the gaze, and coming back to wide-legged stance. Coming to mountain pose. Sweep up into chair, inhaling, pushing the hips back, knees bent at 90 degrees. Looking over the knees, you should be able to see the toes. This is an unusual angle for most yoga videos to see a chair from the front. Holding here. Again, easing back into those hips, opening the hips, and then finally inhaling and sweeping up out of the pose, hands on heart. We're going to now move into eagle pose. You can do a regressed eagle. Might be best to come off your mat. You can have a little bit more stability. Jamie will show you a relaxed eagle pose, which is just to cross the left leg over the right and the right under the left. Ankles crossed, wrist crossed. If you want to go into full eagle, you might want to use a block here. So you bring the left leg over the right and the right under the left arm. You might also want to be next to a wall or a pole. Exhaling, bending forward from the waist. Inhale, coming up. Exhale, bending forward. Exhale forward. Inhale up. Exhale forward. Inhale up. And we'll hold here. Our 4 deep breaths, our ocean breathing. Be a challenging pose, even for Jamie. One more breath, and then lifting up out of the pose gently. You can roll that ankle just to get a little bit of freshness back into the body there. It's under a lot of pressure. We're going to have a tree pose next, so be in it for the long haul. A simple eagle. Reverse, just crossing ankles and wrist. Or to come into the full pose. Again, you might need to reposition yourself against the wall or supporting item, put the block back in place. You cross the right knee over the left leg. Exhale, bending forward. Inhale, coming up. Exhale, forward. Inhale up. Exhale, forward. Inhale up. One more time, exhaling. Inhale, coming up, and then holding. Keeping focused on a fixed point on the wall or someplace in the room in front of you. The standing leg, knee bent slightly. This will give you more flexibility to control that balancing leg. And then inhaling out of the pose. Go ahead and rotate the knees, rotate the ankles once again, and prepare for tree pose. Once again, moving your weight to the left side, bending that knee slightly. That knee will give you control, bringing the right foot up to the ankle, hands to heart. You can bring it up to the calf, or if it's in your practice, coming all the way up to the inner thigh, remembering not to put that foot on your knee itself. Do not put it aside the knee. Once you're in position, inhale, bring your hands up overhead. Exhale, bring them back to the heart. Inhale up. Exhale, hands to heart. Inhale up. Exhale, hands to heart. One more time. Inhale up. Exhale, hands to heart. And then balancing here. keeping that left knee slightly bent. Driving the toe, the big toe, the small toe, and the heel into the ground, arches lifted, eyes fixed on a single point. And on the last inhale, bringing the knee, rotating that knee forward and dropping it back down to the ground. Roll out the ankles. Reposition your block. And then shift your weight to your right foot, right leg. Keep that knee slightly bent. Bring your left leg to ankle, calf or thigh, hands to heart. Inhale, hands up in a Y shape. Exhale, hands to heart. Inhale up. Exhale, hands to heart. Inhale up. Exhale, hands to heart. Inhale up. Exhale down. And then hold for 4. You can really focus on your breathing here, moving your breath into your chest and then your belly, coming up from the belly through the chest, out the nose. One more breath. And on the exhale, rotating that left knee forward and finally dropping it to the ground. Roll out the ankles and then come back to your mat if you've moved. Legs standing slightly wider than hip width apart, coming into bear pose. Squatting back, pressing the hips outward, the chest and shoulders parallel to the floor, extending the arms out. Interlocking fingers straight out in front. Arms and torso parallel to the floor. Thighs almost parallel to the floor. Knees in alignment, getting as close to a 90-degree angle as you can. Holding here. And then on an inhale, coming up out of the pose. Back to mountain, feet hip width apart, knees slightly bent, pelvis tucked, shoulders up to the ears and then dropping them down halfway down the spine, palms open, chin slightly tucked, back of the head slightly up. And from here, we're going to move to seated goddess or seated horse pose. So coming down to the mat, spine straight, crown of the head to the sky, drop the left knee to the floor and tuck the ankle onto the mat, right under the hip. Opposite foot is flat on the floor, knee pointed to the right, hands at the heart. Feel a strong stretch in the groin. Holding here for the full 4 counts. Hands at the heart pressing into the core, keeping a firm core. And on the last exhale, letting the hands drop and repositioning onto the right side. It can be a challenging pose to stretch the groin on the exhales and lifting up from the spine on the inhales. 2 more breaths here. And on your next exhale, coming out of the pose, placing the hands on the mat and coming down to seated position, feet out in front, sitting down on the front of the sit bones. You can grab a strap as we do some forward folds. If you wish to bring the strap over the tops of the toes to lean forward with a little assistance, or if it's in your practice, just folding entirely forward, hands over the tops of the toes, relaxing the spine, exhaling and just melting onto the top of the legs. Hamstrings fully extended. Feeling the opening, really focusing on the hips. An opening there. As we come into the final cool down phase of our movement practice here. Inhaling, coming back up to seated position, bringing ourselves down to the mat and coming into figure 4. Left foot over the right knee bent at a 90-degree angle, grabbing behind the thighs and just pulling gently for a stretch there, a hamstring stretch and a psoas stretch. One more breath here. And exhaling and switching feet. Here's a good time to recall our gratitude for God, what has been gifted to us today, this week, most recently. And seeing if we can open our heart to that sense of gratitude and take it with us through the rest of this practice, but also for the rest of the day. And then exhaling and releasing the pose. Hug the hips and rotate, make little circles, your hips and knees. Just allowing yourself to enjoy the release and refreshment of the practice, extending the legs onto the ground for final resting pose. Opening the feet and hands, allowing relaxation, scanning the body from the feet, letting all tension dissolve, coming up to the calves, letting your awareness of the body dissolve, up into the thighs, knees, and the hips, across to the hands. That's the belly, the low back, just letting everything dissolve into spirit. Nothing but the breath is in your awareness as you pass up the shoulders to the crown of the head and just relax. And then coming back to the body, can move the head from side to side, the shoulders, clench the fists gently. And when you're ready, place your right foot on the mat and turn to the left and come up to comfortable seated position on a bolster or a blanket as we prepare for a short, silent meditation, or what we call silent prayer here. So all forms, silent centering prayer, ceaseless prayer. We ask you place your hand on your heart. Recall what you give thanks for to God. As we rest in a few minutes of breathing, you can return to your square breathing, or whatever practice you were using earlier, and then just release into your silent prayer practice. We'll be in this silence for 4 minutes. preparing to come back out of your prayer, taking a moment to refocus, drop your hand from your heart and place it back on your lap or wherever is comfortable. And with open eyes, may the Father of lights comfort you and keep you in the days ahead. May you go forth with gratitude and trust in the Lord as a blessing onto your neighbor. Let nothing tear asunder what the Holy Spirit has made whole and placed in your heart. In Jesus' name, Maranatha. Thanks.